Oh, so now they see it. Now they finally understand what you were doing. Now they're whispering the word they swore would never apply to you. Trendsetter. They say it casually, like it doesn't sting them to admit it, like it doesn't twist something sharp inside their pride to acknowledge you were ahead of them the entire time. They're acting like this shift was sudden, like you just woke up one morning and stepped into a trajectory that rewired the entire direction of your life. But the truth is more uncomfortable for them. You've been moving toward this elevation for a while. Quietly, intentionally, without their approval, without their applause, without their comprehension. They didn't see it then because they didn't think you were capable of disrupting anything. Now they act like they predicted this rise, but they didn't. They couldn't. They were too busy misinterpreting your choices, too busy assuming your calm was confusion, too busy judging the moves you made before those moves became valuable in their eyes. They didn't recognize that every risk you took was calculated. Every decision you made carried a direction only you could sense. You weren't following trends. You were building your own internal compass while they were still recycling the same empty advice everyone else listens to. They thought your detours were mistakes. They thought your adjustments were desperation. But something in you kept pushing past the limits they tried to impose. Something in you kept refusing to settle for what made everyone else comfortable. You weren't chasing a trend. You were creating a new trajectory. And now the results are undeniable. People are studying your steps like a blueprint. They're dissecting your strategy, trying to figure out which moment they missed. Because somewhere in the chaos, somewhere in the uncertainty, somewhere in that stretch of time, when your life didn't make sense to anyone but you, something shifted, something expanded, and now it's visible enough that even the ones who dismissed you have no choice but to acknowledge it. They don't know how you did it. They just know you did something no one else around you had the nerve to attempt, and that makes them uncomfortable. Look at the way they're changing their tone. Listen to the way they speak to you now. Their questions are different. Their posture is different. Their curiosity is different. They're not talking to you the way they used to. They're not dismissive anymore. They're not skeptical. They're cautious. They're observant. They're trying to understand how someone who wasn't supposed to break through broke through anyway. You were never supposed to exceed the blueprint they handed you. You were supposed to follow the safe sequence, stay predictable, stay manageable. But you didn't. You started moving in ways no one anticipated. You took paths that weren't recommended, options that weren't guaranteed, and made decisions that didn't fit the narrative they built around you. You became the exception in an environment that teaches people to be copies, and now they're scrambling to adjust their perception. This is the part that unsettles them the most. You didn't transform because they supported you. You transformed in spite of them. You didn't grow because they guided you. You grew because you stopped letting them guide you. You created your own rules, your own direction, your own definition of success. And now you're stepping into a level of abundance that forces them to reevaluate everything they assumed about you. You're doing what they labeled unthinkable. You're reaching heights they swore were unrealistic. You're approaching a financial reality that makes them second-guess every limitation they tried to place on your life. They can't pretend anymore. They can't downplay it. They can't explain it away. The numbers are shifting. The results are appearing. The elevation is visible. And suddenly, the same people who treated your ambition like delusion are acting like they always knew you had it in you. That's the irony. They doubted your direction while secretly fearing you might be right. They dismissed your choices because accepting them would require admitting you saw something they couldn't see. They needed you to be wrong because it justified their decision to stay small. But you weren't wrong. You were early. And now that the path is opening, now that the momentum is building, now that opportunities are connecting in ways they never imagined, you've become the reference point for what's possible. People are calling you a trendsetter, not because you followed a trend, but because you outgrew the environment that tried to shape you. You didn't adopt the popular mindset. You replaced it. You didn't chase what everyone else was chasing. You positioned yourself where the future was heading. And now the future is finally catching up to you. That's why the money conversation feels different. Your financial trajectory is shifting because you shifted internally first. People think wealth begins with an opportunity. They don't realize wealth begins with a decision. The decision to detach from rules that were never designed for your rise. The decision to move like your time is valuable before it actually shows up in your account. The decision to trust your instincts, even when they don't match the logic of the people around you. That internal shift is what they misinterpreted. They thought you were being unrealistic. They thought you were ignoring the obvious. They thought you were reaching too far. But the truth is, you were finally reaching correctly. And now, the consequences of those internal decisions are beginning to show in ways you can't hide anymore. That's when the whispers start. That's when people circle back, pretending they believed in you the entire time. That's when they start watching your moves with an intensity that wasn't there before. They're trying to decode the change. They're trying to understand the timing. They're trying to figure out when you switched lanes and why they didn't notice until now. It bothers them that you didn't need validation to rise. It bothers them that you didn't need permission to expand. It bothers them that you didn't wait for consensus before taking action, because they were taught to wait. They were conditioned to seek approval. They were programmed to stay within familiar territory. And now watching you break through those limitations without hesitation forces them to confront their own hesitation. That's the part that cuts the deepest. Your rise isn't just inspiring, it's confronting. It doesn't just motivate them, it exposes them. Your growth isn't just impressive, it's disruptive. They don't just admire you, they're intimidated by what your success implies about their own choices. Because if you can do the unthinkable, what does that say about the excuses they've been hiding behind? That's why the financial aspect hits so hard. Money has a way of making people honest. When someone begins to rise, people reveal their true relationship with ambition. Some get inspired, some get jealous, some get curious, some get defensive, and some suddenly pretend they were your supporters from the beginning. They're not reacting to the money itself. They're reacting to the fact that they didn't see it coming. They never expected your ideas to translate into results. They didn't think your consistency would connect. They underestimated the strength of decisions you made in private. They didn't take your vision seriously. But now the same people who doubted you are watching your potential turn into actual numbers. They're watching doors open. They're watching opportunities form. They're watching your reality shift in real time. And they don't know how to process it. This is where the conversation around wealth becomes personal. Because it's not just about what you're earning, it's about who you're becoming in the process. You're stepping into a version of yourself that doesn't need validation to move, doesn't need approval to evolve, doesn't need confirmation to ascend. You're creating a financial identity that comes from clarity, not desperation. And that's why the results feel different. People aren't noticing the money. They're noticing the energy behind it. They're noticing the way you make decisions now. They're noticing the way you walk, the way you stand, the way you speak, the way you no longer explain yourself. That confidence isn't arrogance. It's alignment. You're aligned with a direction that's been building quietly inside you for years. And now that alignment is beginning to show in your bank account. That's why even professionals are paying attention. You're reaching a level where the people who handle money for a living are beginning to notice your trajectory. They're seeing numbers move in ways that signal something bigger on the horizon. They're seeing patterns that suggest growth is not a phase for you. It's becoming your standard. And soon enough, there will be moments where even the bank accountant, the one who sees hundreds of accounts every month, will pause, look at your balance, and wonder what exactly you're building. That's what happens when someone does the unthinkable. Their rise becomes impossible to ignore. Their results speak louder than their explanations. Their presence carries a different weight. And the people who once underestimated them find themselves studying the very person they dismissed. But here's the real twist. This is just the beginning. Everything they're reacting to now is only the first stage of your ascent. They think you've peaked because they still measure success by small standards. They don't realize you're not aiming for a spike. You're building a trajectory. You're positioning yourself for a long-term elevation, not a temporary breakthrough. What they're witnessing right now is the early phase of a transformation that's been unfolding quietly, internally, consistently. They think the sudden attention you're receiving is luck. They think the momentum in your direction is coincidence. They think people calling you a trendsetter is a flattering label you stumbled into. They don't understand the mental discipline, the internal alignment, the strategic detachment required to step into a lane most people fear even looking at. They're seeing the results now, but they didn't see the process. They're seeing the attention now, but they didn't see the isolation. They're seeing the money on the horizon, but they didn't see the sacrifices that built the path toward it. That's why their perception is so limited. They're only capable of interpreting what's happening now. They don't have the range to understand what's coming next. Because the level you're rising into doesn't operate on the same logic they're familiar with. You're not just generating progress, you're generating gravity. You're becoming a point of pull, a reference point, a source of influence that shapes the direction of everything around you. That's what trend-setting really is. It's not about being flashy. It's not about being loud. It's not about forcing people to notice you. It's about moving with such clarity and conviction that the world has no choice but to adjust itself around your choices. People are calling you a trendsetter because your decisions are beginning to set the pace. You're not following anyone's blueprint. You're creating standards other people are now trying to imitate. And imitation, whether they admit it or not, is the highest form of acknowledgement. They copy the ones they once doubted. They mimic the ones they once dismissed. They restructure their routines around the person they once misunderstood. That's the power you're stepping into. And it's not just your direction they're watching. It's the calm behind it. They didn't expect you to rise without announcing your rise. They didn't expect you to elevate without performing your elevation. They didn't expect you to accumulate momentum without broadcasting every step. That's the part that makes them uneasy. You didn't need to shout. You didn't need to boast. You didn't need to convince anyone. You simply moved, and the results followed. Now those results are pointing towards something they aren't equipped to handle. Wealth. Real wealth. Not the kind people talk about to feel better. Not the fantasy version people pretend they're working toward, while secretly doubting they'll ever see it. You're stepping into a level of financial expansion that begins to change how people interact with you, how they interpret you, how they categorize you. Money doesn't just alter your environment, it alters how people behave in its presence. And that's where things become interesting. Because right now, you're approaching a financial shift that disrupts every prediction they made about you. They always assumed you'd settle. They always assumed you'd struggle. They always assumed your life would reflect the limitations they built around your abilities. But those assumptions are beginning to collapse. You're moving into a zone they never expected you to reach. You're approaching numbers they never envisioned you touching. You're stepping into opportunities they thought were reserved for people built from a different fabric. They didn't see this coming because they weren't supposed to. You didn't grow in front of them. You grew beyond them. You didn't evolve in their sight. You evolved in your own silence. And now that the evidence is showing, they're scrambling to understand how you managed to bypass every barrier they believed would restrict you. This is the phase where confusion turns into curiosity. They're not just watching you, they're analyzing you. They're trying to reverse engineer your progress. They're replaying conversations, reinterpreting your decisions, re-examining the moments they dismissed as meaningless. They're trying to find the formula they once thought didn't exist. Because deep down, they're beginning to suspect the truth. Your rise wasn't luck, coincidence, or accidental timing. It was intentional. And that's the part they can't handle. People fear intentionality, especially when it comes from someone they underestimated. Your success forces them to confront their miscalculations. Your financial trajectory forces them to review the moments they could have supported you, but didn't. Your elevation forces them to acknowledge that they were wrong about you. And pride rarely lets people admit that. That's why their reactions are mixed. Some celebrate you publicly, but resent you privately. Some admire you in silence, but pretend to be indifferent. Some praise you to your face, but compete with you behind your back. And some, the boldest ones, act like they always believed in your potential, even though you remember every moment they doubted you. But none of their reactions matter, because you're no longer operating on the frequencies that rely on their acknowledgement. You've entered a chapter where your focus shifts from proving them wrong to proving yourself correct. You're no longer just seeking advancement, you're expecting it. You're not just hoping for financial growth, you're aligning with it. You're not waiting for opportunities, you're creating conditions that attract them. And that's the difference. That's what separates you from the environment you came from. They thought success required permission. You realized success requires decision. They thought wealth was reserved for selected people. You realized wealth is reserved for people who refuse to remain where comfort tries to hold them. They thought ambition was risky. You realized inaction is the only guaranteed loss. And now the world is reacting to the results of your clarity. This is where trend setting becomes something deeper than a title. It becomes an identity. Because trend setting isn't about inventing something new, it's about embodying something uncommon. You move differently. You think differently. You invest differently. You prioritize differently. You don't make decisions based on fear. You make them based on vision. And vision is something most people never learn to trust. Your rise is evidence of what happens when someone refuses to listen to the limitations of their environment. It's evidence of what happens when someone acts on instincts that others ignore. It's evidence of what happens when someone is willing to look foolish temporarily in order to build something extraordinary permanently. People are calling you a trendsetter because you dared to move before they were ready to follow. And now they're realizing you were right. But as your influence expands, so does the financial implication. Because people don't follow individuals, they follow momentum. And your momentum is beginning to attract opportunities that didn't exist for you before. Deals, connections, collaborations, invitations, recommendations. These things appear naturally when someone shifts from aspiring to ascending. You've crossed that threshold. You're no longer hoping for a breakthrough. You're becoming the breakthrough. This is the phase where even people who don't know you begin to notice you. When strangers sense something different in your energy. When acquaintances start treating you with new levels of respect. When your presence shifts from background to focal point. You're entering that stage now. And with that stage comes the financial expansion that makes the world treat you differently. Money doesn't change who you are. It amplifies who you've become. It magnifies the traits you've strengthened, the discipline you've maintained, the patience you've developed. You're not stepping into wealth unprepared. You're stepping into wealth refined. Your past didn't break you. It built you. Your challenges didn't define you. They sharpened you. Your setbacks didn't weaken you. They strengthened your internal structure. And that structure is what makes your financial rise sustainable. That's what they don't understand. They think money changes everything. But money doesn't create character. It reveals it. And your character has already been forged under pressure. You've been through cycles of doubt that could have destroyed your direction. You've endured moments of uncertainty that could have derailed your ambition. You've navigated decisions that required courage most people don't possess. That internal strength is what ensures your external growth won't collapse under its own weight. You're not just about to make money, you're about to manage it with clarity. You're about to multiply it with intention. You're about to carry it with responsibility. You're about to use it as a tool, not a crutch. And that scares people who never developed the internal discipline required to handle abundance. This is why even professionals, the ones who analyze numbers, track data, and monitor accounts, will eventually pause when they see your growth. Because some increases are predictable. Some increases follow clear patterns. Some increases are typical, expected, logical. But yours won't be. Yours will come in waves that don't match average trajectories. Yours will rise in patterns that don't match normal statistics. Yours will reflect decisions that only make sense when viewed from the perspective of someone who operates beyond fear. That's why even the bank accountant will eventually look at your account and wonder what changed. They'll see deposits that appear out of rhythm with your past. They'll see growth that exceeds linear progression. They'll see activity that signals someone stepping into an entirely different financial identity. And accountants don't react to imagination. They react to numbers. They react to patterns. They react to data that confirms transformation. Your data is about to change. Your numbers are about to shift. Your account is about to reflect the reality you've been building internally. That's how wealth begins, not with the money itself, but with the mindset that attracts it. You've already formed that mindset. You've already broken the patterns that limited you. You've already detached from the narratives that kept you small. Now your external world is aligning itself with your internal evolution. People think money creates power. But power comes first. The internal kind. The kind that doesn't need to announce itself. The kind that doesn't need to prove itself. The kind that doesn't need validation to move forward. When you develop that kind of power, money becomes its natural companion. And that's exactly what you're stepping into. Trends don't define you. You define trends. And soon the numbers will reflect that identity. Soon the world will have to acknowledge what they never expected. You did the unthinkable. You rose where they assumed you would plateau. You built momentum where they expected stagnation. You turned direction into elevation. And now your financial reality is adjusting in ways they could never predict. But the most important part of this transformation isn't the recognition, it's the responsibility. Because once your name becomes associated with influence, expectation, and money, you enter a chapter where every choice you make carries more weight. And that weight isn't meant to crush you. It's meant to shape you into someone capable of handling the next level of growth. This is the chapter most people never reach. The place where the world doesn't just watch your moves, it reacts to them. The place where your decisions don't just shift your own life, they shift the environment around you. The place where your rise becomes a reference point for others who never had the courage to break their own patterns. People called you a trendsetter as an observation, but what they don't realize is that trend-setting is simply the surface-level expression of something far deeper happening within you. You're not just changing the direction of your life, you're influencing the direction of others without even trying. That influence is what scares them. Not the money, not the attention, not the recognition, but the fact that your growth is beginning to challenge the limitations they accepted as truth. You shifted from a person they dismissed to a blueprint they're trying to replicate. And that shift forces them to confront something they've avoided for years, the possibility that they settled long before they needed to. Your rise is no longer a personal victory, it's a mirror. And people are seeing themselves in that reflection, whether they want to or not. But your journey isn't about proving anything to them. You've already passed that stage. Now it's about stepping fully into the identity that your elevation demands. Because with wealth comes a recalibration of how you operate, not out of pressure, not out of pride, but out of necessity. When your life begins to move at a speed that others can't process, you must evolve in ways they've never imagined. The first evolution is clarity. You start cutting things faster. You start recognizing patterns sooner. You stop entertaining energy that doesn't contribute to your progress. You stop justifying your choices to people who don't live with the consequences. You stop explaining your direction to people who haven't earned access to your reasoning. That clarity isn't coldness, it's calibration. You're aligning your environment with the version of yourself you're becoming, not the version they remember. And people feel that shift before they understand it. They sense the change in your focus. They sense the change in your boundaries. They sense the change in your priorities. At first, they think you're pulling away, but it's not distance, it's direction. You're no longer orbiting the expectations that once held you still. You're moving on a trajectory that doesn't require validation, permission, or applause. And the people who depended on your past version struggle to adapt to the present one. They're beginning to realize that they can't reach you with the same tactics they used before. They can't distract you with noise. They can't derail you with doubt. They can't influence you with guilt. You've outgrown all of it. You've outgrown the limitations they projected onto you. You've outgrown the environments that once felt familiar. You've outgrown the conversations that once drained your time. And now those same people are watching you speak in a language they don't understand, the language of upward movement. Upward movement has its own vocabulary. It speaks through discipline when others make excuses. It speaks through execution when others procrastinate. It speaks through progress when others are paralyzed by hesitation. You're fluent in that language now, and fluency is what separates those who rise from those who stay exactly where they started. But the most profound shift happens internally. You reach a point where abundance no longer feels foreign, where opportunity no longer feels accidental, where success no longer feels like a glitch. You stop waiting for something to go wrong and start preparing for everything to go right. You stop negotiating with your potential and start negotiating with your future. You stop surviving and start expanding. When you enter that mindset, money isn't just a goal. It's an extension of your identity. It's a reflection of the decisions you've made, the boundaries you enforced, the work you executed, the discipline you maintained. And that reflection is about to become impossible to ignore. Because you're stepping into a level of abundance where even people whose job is to keep track of numbers will be asking questions they can't easily answer. Bank accounts tell stories. They reveal patterns. They expose direction. And your numbers are about to tell a story that contradicts everything they assumed about you. A story of someone who refused to settle. Someone who refused to shrink. Someone who refused to let their environment dictate their destiny. Someone who rose despite doubt, not because of approval. You're entering a financial identity where steady increases aren't enough. You're entering the phase of exponential shifts, the kind of jumps that force professionals to double-check their screens, the kind of growth that makes even experienced accountants pause, tilt their head, and wonder what door you opened that they haven't seen before. They won't see your strategy. They won't see your sacrifices. They won't see your internal battles. They'll only see numbers rising in ways that demand attention. And attention is something you've already learned to handle. You've learned the difference between being observed and being influenced. You've learned to differentiate between curiosity and entitlement. You've learned how to hold your ground when people start projecting their expectations onto your success. And that emotional maturity is what ensures your financial elevation will be sustainable, not chaotic. Because money reveals everything people try to hide. It reveals their insecurities, their intentions, their adaptability, their entitlement. You'll see it immediately as you rise. People who once ignored you will suddenly speak to you differently. People who once doubted you will pretend they believed in you the entire time. People who once minimized you will try to align themselves with your direction as if they were supportive all along. But you won't fall for any of it. You've learned too much. You've experienced too much. You've grown past the version of yourself that used to value approval. You're not looking for validation from the people who underestimated you. You're not chasing acceptance from environments that couldn't comprehend your vision. Your identity is no longer shaped by their impressions. It's shaped by your progression. And that progression is accelerating, not in chaotic bursts, but with controlled force. The kind of force that comes from experience, resilience, and strategic precision. You're making decisions now that only someone who has endured setbacks and still chosen forward motion can make. And that depth is what separates you from those who only dream of progress but never commit to it. This is what doing the unthinkable looks like. Arriving somewhere people never believed you'd reach, then continuing to rise as if that arrival was only the first step. That's why people are calling you a trendsetter. They're sensing that your moves aren't random, they're influential. They're noticing that your actions aren't reactive, they're directional. They're paying attention not because you're loud, but because your outcomes are. And outcomes are the one thing people can't argue with. They can argue with your opinions. They can argue with your decisions. They can argue with your timing. But they can't argue with results that stand in front of them. They can't argue with numbers that contradict their expectations. They can't argue with momentum that continues to build despite their predictions. You've outgrown their logic, and now they're trying to adjust their understanding of you to match the reality you've created. Your influence is expanding in ways that feel subtle to you but dramatic to others. You're becoming the person people reference when talking about possibility, the person they point to when discussing growth, the person they study when reconsidering their limitations. This is the beginning of legacy, not the grand monument version, but the everyday influence version, the version where people shift their thinking because your existence challenges their excuses. But here's the part most people never reach. The moment where you realize that money isn't the destination, it's the amplifier. It amplifies your strengths, your discipline, your vision, your strategy. And because you've built those things properly, the amplification will enhance everything you've earned, not distort it. That's why your rise isn't chaotic. That's why your progress isn't fragile. That's why your success isn't temporary. Your money will not come from a single moment. It will come from a mindset you've spent years developing, a mindset built on clarity, responsibility, and refusal to settle. And that mindset is the reason opportunities are starting to appear in your direction. Not because you're lucky, but because you're aligned. Not because you fit the mold, but because you broke it. Not because the world chose you, but because you chose yourself long before anyone else considered you. And that choice is the foundation of everything happening now. You're entering a chapter where money flows toward clarity, toward competence, toward courage, and you embody all three. You're entering a chapter where people invest in the person, not the pitch. And you've become someone people trust because you didn't rush your development. You didn't rush your growth. You didn't rush your transformation. You let it unfold naturally, strategically, internally. And now, the external world is adjusting to match it. Soon, you won't just be the person who did the unthinkable. You'll be the standard for it. People will reference your decisions when analyzing risk. People will use your results when redefining success. People will point to your direction when explaining momentum. And that impact will extend far beyond the financial numbers that triggered the attention. Influence is more powerful than income. But you've positioned yourself to have both. And both will arrive in ways that feel surreal to the world, but expected to you. Because you've been preparing for this long before they noticed. You've been shaping yourself internally long before the money began aligning externally. You've built the character to sustain what others would crumble under. And now nothing can interrupt the direction you've committed to. Your rise is not a phase. It's an identity. Your influence is not a trend. It's a foundation. Your money is not a stroke of luck. It's the natural extension of someone who refused to settle for average thinking. And soon, even the professionals, the ones trained to stay neutral, analytical, detached, will pause when your numbers appear in front of them. They'll wonder who you are. They'll wonder what you're building. They'll wonder how someone moved from overlooked to undeniable without following the steps everyone else depends on. They'll see deposits that signal expansion. They'll see consistency that signals structure. They'll see growth that signals mastery. And they'll realize something that everyone around you is already beginning to suspect. You're not just becoming successful. You're becoming significant. Significance is what people follow. Significance is what people study. Significance is what people imitate. You didn't force this identity. You grew into it. And now the world must adjust to the version of you that refuses to shrink ever again. Because this is the moment your trajectory becomes permanent. This is the moment your influence becomes undeniable. This is the moment your wealth becomes a reflection of something deeper than ambition. This is the moment the world realizes you were never meant to blend in. You were meant to break through.